right, everyone. This is Adrian from Audio Excellence Canada, and I am with Galina and Who Cares About Wendell? They are back, the wonderful odd couple, as I call them. So Wendell, for those of you who don't know, he is the, I guess, marketing strategist for Magnepan, and at least that's the title I'm going to give him. And Galina is actually the golden ear of the couple. Believe it or not, I was speaking with Galina this morning. Is that not true?
Well, yes. She's actually listened to more orchestras in Siberia in her life than I have. Yeah. But that's an interesting story, by the way.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, so Galina was telling me, and maybe you guys can talk about this. Growing up in Siberia, she went to a lot of plays and concerts because it was so inexpensive in her city to do so. So as a result of that, Wendell steals her ears as part of a listening panel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we make it clear that a new model has to pass a blind test. We don't just no marketing hype. I try to minimize all the marketing stuff. Is it audible in a blind test? So you're what, tell me what I want to get it correct. So we set up. It's behind. We put take them in with blindfold on or darked out glasses in the dark, and so then she listens to one speaker and then she listens to the other speaker. And you said the speaker on what did you say? The speaker on the right.
Speaker on the right, like one rose, and speaker on the left, like bouquet, or another comparison, like this is like one stream, and on the left it's a fontaine. Fountain.
Yeah.
Fountain. In Russian, it's fontaine.
She doesn't know audiophile speak, but she's a chemist at 3M. Didn't you used to make a chemical analysis? I don't remember.
I don't remember too.
Hydrochloric acid and no, I don't know. I'm making that up. But no, and in the tours, we're in Buffalo, doing a tour with the LRS Plus and our prototype subwoofer. We are a team. I mean, she just doesn't come. I don't bring her along just for good looks. She helps with the driving. I mean, we covered all of North America with a 30.7, and then we did a short tour with a 30.7C for 30.7C which stands for condos. So she helps with the driving. We set up the 30.7s all by ourselves. Just grandma and grandpa do it. Actually, the young guys feel, the guys, they want to help. We had everything. If you've seen the videos, we had everything on wheels, and we can do it faster than when they try to help us.
Yes.
So she helps me set up and tear down, and then when we listen. On the setup, I like to use recordings made in orchestra hall. I particularly like exotic dances, reference recording by Dr. Johnson. So we sit in Jim Winey's seat, which is 11th row, a little bit to the right. The scale is massive, and the hall is very efficient. Mm-hmm. And literally on crescendos, I plug my ears. I mean, it's just so incredibly dynamic and loud. So we sit, we play that recording. Yeah. I like the second cut on exotic dances. And then then I listen, and then I put her in the sweet spot. Okay, how does it work? Does it sound like it? And I got to be careful to pick my words here. You can't fix a bad room. The world's best system cannot fix a bad room. There were some 30.7s that we were so disappointed we'd look like, I was just like,
It's happened.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
they're $30,000 speaker back then, and it was like you've got to have a good sound room. I mean, depending on the room, the energy that you're hearing, a lot of the sound is, I don't know what the percentage is, but a high percentage of the sound you're hearing reflection. And if the room's a disaster, you can't fix it. And one thing I noticed is that all the good sound rooms had an enormous number of diffusers. That was a new experience for me, because we heard the 30.7s in 63 different rooms, and all the good sounding rooms had lots of diffusers, which by the way doesn't have to look like a sound, turn it into a recording studio. There's natural items beautiful items that can act as diffusers. But anyway, I'm getting on my soapbox here.
So let me bring it back to why we're here today. So you mentioned in passing that you are doing a tour with the LRS Plus.
Right.
So why don't we talk about the LRS Plus? At least what you can say about it, because Wendell being Wendell, there's a lot he won't talk about.
Well, first of all, there's a ribbon speaker is so simple. There's no beryllium, there's no carbon fiber, there's no diamond crusting. There's no gee whiz stuff to talk about. It's so elegantly simple. When you make an improvement, it's, first of all, to the layman, if we explained it, might not be interesting, and it's not that impressive. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, there's no spin. So the LRS, well, I need to back up from Jim Winey. Always designed the entry-level model. Back in the 1980s, the SMG. It was designed for a young person or somebody getting started. A lot of them were hooked up with an NAD, integrated amp, and a receiver. The idea was to make it affordable and work with inexpensive products. The LRS was a 180 change from that strategy. It requires a real amplifier. And fortunately, there's a lot of good Class AB amplifiers out there that will drive an LRS that sound good. So but it was a big shift in terms of design strategy. The LRS Plus is the highest resolution entry-level speaker we've ever had. And it became a marketing strategy because we've been back ordered on the LRS, and from a sales marketing standpoint, you typically 5-6 years, when your sales start slowing down, you come out with a new model, improved crossover, etc. So it doesn't make any sense. When we brought out the LRS Plus, we already had a big back order situation, which was exacerbated by the pandemic. So it is a marketing strategy of let's give the best high-end resolution we can get out of an inexpensive small speaker. So you're supposed to ask me, well, what? George is supposed to ask me.
I'm giving you the rope to hang yourself. Yeah. Exactly. I'm going. So
why would you do that?
Exactly, given how much demand there already is with the LRS, and given this huge back order, why now? Why the LRS Plus? And I guess if I understand correctly, the LRS and I guess now the LRS Plus is in many ways sort of a taste for the consumer who lives nowhere near a Magnepan dealer, Magnepan could potentially ship a pair. Do you still run the 30-day money back guarantee program in the U.S.?
60 days, yeah.
60 days.
Yes.
Yeah, so you could conceivably call Magnepan up, and Magnepan would send you a pair for 60 days and then gives you an idea of what the 0.7 or the 1.7 or the 3.7 would sound like. So it's like going to a really good 5-star restaurant and having a tasting menu and say, I really, really, really like the Bosch.
Galina's Bosch.
That's right. Yeah. Now I want the full-size version of it. Right, so I understand and I think that's brilliant marketing from a strategic standpoint. But why now? Why the LRS Plus? Given that you have
There's where we get into the secret sauce. Okay. We could get even higher resolution, and why not? But it's all about marketing, because for the beginner, the person with an NAD receiver or something, that I date myself, because that was whatever they're using, whatever is the go-to starter system now. I'm not sure if they would appreciate the difference between the LRS and the LRS Plus. I know when we put some crazy high-end products on it, and we could with the LRS Plus, and we could discern the difference. But in terms of somebody beginning, as a marketing strategy, I don't know if it benefits that much. But what's really alarmed me is I've been doing this for 49 years as of June. And I'm still nostalgic about stereo. I thought it would go in the 70s and early 80s. I thought that would be the norm. Well, the dealers they can evolve so easily compared to, and you've done it, Adrian. You expanded into custom and home theater. I remember some of them were selling CB radios back in the old days. So their love was in 2-channel, but they had a business to run. So that change started in the 90s as you adapted, and we kept selling big panels. So, and that has never changed. So then comes it became more and more difficult to sell the big panels. As we go up in price point, you notice, look at the Absolute Sound Stereophile magazine, everybody's moving into higher end products because that's where the market is at. So it was difficult to sell 20.7, the timpanis and then the big panels. So then the pandemic comes. And so the dealers, the percentage of their total sales, 2-channel, while you still love selling 2-channel, dollar-wise, I don't know, what are you willing to say on camera, what your percentage is of custom?
We're very lucky. We still do a huge amount of 2-channel. Yeah. So I would still say, 2-channel is very vital for us. Yeah. But I can certainly see a lot of other stores where 2-channel has become much less relevant.
I hear it's like 60%, so numbers like that, and but they're still doing 2-channel, but they're doing it's skewed more towards high-end 2-channel, and then the pandemic comes along, so we've lost a lot of dealers that just. It's time to. They're my age, or not as old as me, but
nobody's as old as you.
By the way, folks, I'm 78. I'm 78.
Good
she's
for you.
Now. Well, she's 12 years younger. I found her in Siberia, by the way. And she built for long distance running, but she'd never run. And we've always had this competitive thing, and I could always stay ahead of her. It'd kill me sometimes just to beat her in a low. We don't run really long distances, but this year I'm going to get it back. But this year I cannot keep up. The curve is steepening, yes. And she's 12 years younger, and she's built. She's got a powerful legs and small upper body, so she's a great runner. She's killing me. So getting back to the way the market is changing, and I don't like sales. I've said that on one of your videos. I love marketing and strategy, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen? The way this is going, there's fewer places for people to hear high-end products. Mm-hmm. In Oregon, I'm from Oregon, and we had a dealer in Bend, Oregon, Eugene, Medford, Oregon, of course, Portland. Dealers, Magnepan dealers. Now, currently in greater New York, we have nobody in Long Island. That's going to be changing. But the fact is that the whole distribution thing is a problem. Customers, if they trust Macintosh or Bryston or Audio Research, they'll buy the next best amplifier based on good reviews because they trust the brand. But with loudspeakers, that's so individual that they are not going to buy a 20.7 or a 30.7 without hearing it. Or some of them will, but not as a strategy. Mm-hmm. So it's a long-winded way of saying, this speaker, let's send it to you. I can envision, now I'm not authorized to announce a program, I'm just strategizing that, yeah, you can order it and send it back 60 days and test it. But what I envision, Adrian, is there's a gun case. These will fit in a gun case. And I envision a frame of a foam insert. So you got to make it really easy for the customer, because they don't want the hassle. Even if you pay the round trip freight, you're a Wilson dealer. Are you going to send a Wilson out on a home trial?
We bring it to the clients.
Yeah. But if it's 4 or 5 hours away, that's a problem. Now, because they'll make the trek because of Wilson's reputation, they'll make the trip. But I envision, Adrian, that you could pack this up, and if you have a customer that you know, you could send it to them. They just pop it open. You get on Zoom with them, and you look at have them pan around. You look at the room, and you say, "Well, I think you should set it over on this wall next to the speakers," and you'll be virtually doing an in-home demonstration the way you did back in the old days. Well, you still do that, in the greater market area. But the customer will be your eyes and ears and hands, and you listen with him, get his reaction, have him try some other music, and this speaker will give him a taste of what the big Maggies can do. Now, it's inherently before the dealers, by the way, that think we're giving away the farm. No. There's some inherent limitations of a little ribbon speaker. First of all, as I've said before and other videos, a line source really would be very narrow, go floor to ceiling. So there's some limitations in power response. The power response in this little LRS can't be as good. By the way, somebody suggested, well, couldn't you stack them? Yeah, try that sometime. I remember Jim Winey did that back with Dave Gordon and myself back in the 1980s with a pair of SMGs. And we were like, this SMG is not a high definition fast, it's very pleasant, but it's more like a Volkswagen. It's a great value, but we were astounded at this SMG when Jim stacked it. I mean, like he was proposing rails. We'd sell them with rails, and we like, Dave, no, not a good. But yes, I've done it where I've done a show where we'd stacked 1.7s and it was shockingly good. So the power response isn't as good. Of course, the bass, because it's small, the bass response is also not as good as the big panels because it's got limited bass area. So it'll get adequate bass in a small room, but you put it in a big room and people are going to want to put a subwoofer with it.
So speaking about subwoofer, leads us into
well,
the
I got to
next-
finish the other limitation. So, you know, if you stand up, you're not going to hear the highs because the line source, you have to be perpendicular to the point on the line source. So there's these limitations that are inherent in the speaker, but it will give you you'll hear the resemblance in certain areas. You'll hear some things that when you finally hear the bigger models, you'll say, yeah, I heard that in the little LRS. There's the marketing strategy. So now I've got to persuade you dealers. I've got to persuade you dealers to use this as a tool. Yes, for the beginner, it's a starter. But for the high-end customer that lives too far away, I'm saying this is also a tool. So there's two strategies at the same time. Okay. Now, did I sell you? By the way, folks, I like to joke with Adrian that he's a better marketer than a retailer. I mean, he's the most, I don't want to offend other dealers, but he's easily one of the most progressive marketing people out there. So if he wants to give up retail, he could get a job in marketing.
Coca-Cola, here I come. So coming back to the question when you so rudely interrupted me, the other reason we're here is because as an addition or a way to improve Magnepans going forward, and hopefully soon, if it ever gets off your wish list and mine, is the dipole open baffle subwoofer that you are developing and hopefully coming to a store near you. Talk to us about the subwoofer, the genesis of the subwoofer, etc.
Well, of course, we've been for 52 years. Customers have been putting subwoofers with magneplaners. The problem is that. And this is not my opinion. I've got some highly qualified experts that say with a dipole speaker, electrostat or ribbon, you should use a dipole woofer, sometimes called open baffle. It means it's not in a box. So they're dynamic drivers. They're specially designed for open air operation. So that's what this prototype that we're showing has a total of 16 6.5-inch drivers. We're very high, very wide bandwidth, very fast drivers, and it takes a lot of them to move to simulate what the big panel woofers, magneplanar woofers, do. Mm-hmm. So we're showing this. Kind of like a concept car. This is on our wish list, so this is the correct way to put if you want to put a subwoofer with a magneplanar or an electrostat, it should be a dipole subwoofer. So a part of the demonstration, the reason for the tour, the previous tours and this tour is a democratic process where we're showing. We want the customers and the press to attend, and we want the customers to get on the chat rooms and write their review of what they thought of our demonstrations. So this is a tour we're going to be continuing on through the Southwest and up the West Coast, Pacific Northwest. We're going to cover a lot of the country, probably 2 weeks at a time. We leave the minivan, and come home for a while, and then go back out. So it's a democratic process to show the LRS as a tool for enabling people to hear it where there's no dealer, and the concept of what is a dynamic dipole subwoofer and what does it sound like? Does it blend? Can you hear it? See, part of the problem with when you put in a room that's too large for a dipole with electrostat or ribbon design, if the room is too large, it's not like you don't get bass, you start losing some mid bass. So you think, wow, this room, you know, Adrian, you've seen it, you've had to add a subwoofer. The problem is, so part of you not only need to get the deep bass, you need to fix the fact that the mid bass is slanting off. So you get a little bit of overlap on your crossover. You get it so you get the amplitude up. So the mid bass, the bass is smooth down to very deep. The problem is that mid bass fill from the monopole becomes detectable, and the deeper you can go, the less of a problem it is. The ultimate solution is to use a dipole with a dipole. Now the problem there's the big name subwoofer manufacturers don't have a line of dynamic dipole subwoofers because it's a niche product. It's for quad electrostats, magneplaners, etc. So for us, it's like, let's do it. We've been selling thousands of magneplaners for 52 years. We've got a market, and so let's get started.
Let's get started. When is it coming?
The fact is, the pandemic came along and really put a crunch on a lot of things. You know, we're not the only one.
So yeah, so we were talking about the subwoofer, the amplifier, the client. In your case, would the client supply his own amplifier, or would it be?
No, it would be like conventional subs that you would typically be a Class D amplifier and DSP, because you need to be able to put the woofer where it fits in the room. The idea is to make it invisible. You know, you'll see that we've selected some spots where it's not obtrusive, fits in the room. You know, it's it can be next to couch or other furniture because it's low frequencies. It's just like subwoofer in that sense. Now you have to fix time, phase, amplitude with the DSP.
So the crossover DSP section.
Yeah, that would be in the subwoofer.
Very cool.
Right.
And if I had to press you, which I will, when do you think that might become a real product?
Well, you know, that we're like everyone else, we're struggling to build the products we have. We're rampant, you know, we're hiring people, everybody's experiencing hiring, but we are hiring people, training them, and increasing our production. So now we want to add.
I can see that being a huge success, because imagine for all these years, so many Magnepan owners have said, oh boy, I love it, wish I had a little bit more bass.
Right.
And now you have that opportunity of getting a properly designed subwoofer specifically for Magnepan or any other panel speaker for that matter.
Now I would add that a dynamic dipole open baffle woofer is inherently more expensive than a monopole, a conventional subwoofer. So I think I need to add that. It's not like we're going to, well, I don't know the limits, but you need a lot of driver. You basically, it's just like you're imitating the big magneplanar bass panels. So you have a low mass driver, and you need a lot of surface area, but you've got more excursion. So you don't have the huge the huge panel moves just a tiny amount, maybe excursion on maximum on bass frequencies, maybe a quarter of an inch or less. Well, with small fast drivers, you got more excursion, but you don't have the size, so you make up for it. But basically, you're pushing air the same way. It's dipole. The front wave is out of phase with the back wave. Mm-hmm. So it's the point I'm trying to make is that we can't have. I don't believe we can have a $500 subwoofer that competes with an offshore monopole subwoofer.
And then the last thing I wanted to quickly cover, because I see it, you brought it. We have an amplifier here that says Maggie 300. What is this new Maggie 300 box?
That's also on our wish list, but that's further back. There's a market, because there's so many amplifiers on the market, there's a niche in the market. I'm not talking about the super high end, but I'm talking in the middle where we get a lot of phone calls. What amplifier should I buy? Well, we don't have time to listen to amplifiers. Mm-hmm. And so there is a market for an amplifier that was designed and sounds good on magneplaners that's at a reasonable price, an American made. That's tough though. You don't see a lot of them because there's amplifiers designed in America, made offshore, but to manufacture it in Minnesota, it's on a wish list. It's something I'd like to have. And I know the consumers would like to have something because how many customers have the chance to actually A/B amplifiers the way we did back in the 1970s? I mean, that's all there was back then. It was a stereo. There were no computers, no smartphones. So you would actually A/B, go to a dealer and spend hours listening back and forth between two amplifiers before you made your selection. That doesn't, I don't see that happening anymore.
So do you think this will actually become a reality, or it's just one of those things where, again, it's on your wish
Wendell wants it. Well, it's like, how can I say whether it's going to actually happen? It sounds very good. We're demonstrating with it for that reason, because it sounds good. But no, I'm not in a position to say it will happen or when. Thanks for trying to put me on the spot.
That's my job. Now, I guess before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to cover? Anybody you want to say hi to? You want to thank your brothers and sisters for the award that you're getting? You're going to get Exponent.
Well, we could keep rattling on, but at some point we're going to lose our viewers.
I think we've already lost them all. Well, what I can say is I arrived this morning. We did a quick setup, had a quick chat with both Wendell and Galina, and it was tremendous amount of fun. And then a reviewer came in, and so I set off to the side and I listened, and I can tell you, I just came back from the Montreal show, and the sound off axis was startlingly good, and the subwoofer, the blend is absolutely amazing. It just truly, I kept thinking this sounds like a 3.7i, but in some ways better. When you don't have the huge size of the speaker, the panels are smaller, the bass is effortless, powerful, dynamic, goes low. I kept thinking, I can't wait to get these subwoofers. Forget the LRS. I want those sounds.
That's what we want people to think.
Yeah, no, it truly is fantastic. You did a great job in designing. Is this basically a similar subwoofer as what you were traveling with?
Yes.
With the 30.7 condo?
I know one thing I did forget. You brought up the 30.7C or 30.7C, which stands for condos. This will enable us, the 30.7C was the premise of was going to be is the flagship, will be the flagship of a very slim design, making as slim as we can possibly make it, and then using this dynamic dipole subwoofer concept to do the bass mid bass. So that's a concept that we start with the flagship. I see that evolving down to other models. Again, it can't compete price-wise. The most inexpensive way is to put everything into one panel, and that's what we've done for 52 years. But so dollar-wise, it won't be as competitive, but we can make something that will have very high resolution and visual impact is minimal. I mean, we live in a townhouse, a little townhouse, and for 44 years, I've never had great sound at home. There's no place. I got a wood stove. There's no place. So it's always been disappointing. But we've had these prototypes. One of the early prototypes of the 30.7C at home, and that's the only speaker she would allow to be turned up to 11th row genuine seat. When we take small speakers home, and she said, "Oh, turn it down.
Too loud.
It's too loud."
Yeah. Ooh.
The problem is power response. That you can't take a small speaker and play it louder, but you make a tall speaker, tall, thin speaker. And I remember coming in the garage, coming in, and it was 11th row. I could tell it was. She was listening to Swan Lake, a Nutcracker at 7th, 11th row levels, because the power response is good. It sounded like she knows what an orchestra sounds.
Yep.
It sounds like. So that's why for small rooms and a more expensive product, that's why what condo stands for, implies that it's a small space, higher end product. We can have something very narrow and have high performance, and that's what we want in our house.
Yeah. Live music.
Yeah.
Live.
And we get a special deal on it too. But right now we don't really have very great sound at home. We do our serious listening at Magnepan.
That's funny. Well, thank you so much for inviting me across the river to Buffalo and enjoying this wonderful setup and meeting you guys again. It's been too long. I think the last time we saw each other was 2018 or 19.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you were traveling
with the 30.7C.
Yeah,
You were a great host.
Yeah.
It was a good demo.
Thank you.